How often have you wanted to know just how much a home down the street sold for? How much, that upper duplex across the street, how much do you think it sold for? Oh, well, honey, they were asking $600,000. You know what they were asking? You just don't know what the sale price was. There's a bit of like an omerta here in Quebec when it comes to home sale prices. It's difficult to get that information. And I know for a lot of us, we've always wanted to know, geez, my neighbor just bought. I wonder how much he paid, right? Maybe you're thinking about selling it. Maybe that would help you out, make that determination, right? So let's talk about that type of data and getting access to it. The Journal de Montréal has just launched a new interactive tool that lets you, it's map-based, you can punch in a location, you can see any street in the city of Montreal, and it shows you over the last couple of years the places that sold and how much it sold for. That's something I've never seen available, information I've never seen available to the general public. Let's find out if it's useful or not. Terry Kilakos is on the line, host of The Real Estate Show right here on CJAD 800. And of course, he's a real estate broker with Northeast Real Estate and Mortgage Agency. Terry, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Elias. How are you?
I'm doing well. Listen, there's quite a bit of a discussion here over the tool that Journal de Montréal launched. A lot of people are quite interested, intrigued to say the least. What was your reaction when you found out they launched this tool?
I think it's great. People have to realize that this information is public knowledge, and if we lived in the States, you have all kinds of different websites that are available that you're able to go and see what your neighbor sold for and, what your house can potentially sell for and whatnot. And the information that is on this platform that was just launched, I mean, it's information that's always been available to the public. You just have to know where to look. You got to look at the registries. You got to look at that. Most of the time, it's information that's only accessible to realtors or mortgage brokers. But in this case, it's becoming available to the public. So I think it's wonderful. I think it's a great tool.
Well, so why do you think it took so long? You mentioned that in other places, right? It's not lost on me. The States, it seems like there's apps that will give you so much information and data. And here in Canada and in Quebec in particular, so little data. Why do you think it's taken this long?
I think it's just because, as Canadians, we're kind of private, if you will. Mm-hmm. The amount of times that I've been sitting with a client and they say to me, how much do you think my house is worth? And, I'm going to pull up, I have access to another platform that's called JLR, which is kind of more of for the, professional world, if you will. And I'm able to go in and I'm able to extract data and find out exactly how much, the neighbor sold for and the other guy and the other guy down the street. And, I think that as Canadians, we've just been very private for stuff like that. We didn't realize that this information was accessible to, everyone. So I think that has a lot to do with it. It has nothing to do with the rules or anything like that. There's no rule that says that you can't dig up that information because it is private. It is public info anyway.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think this could impact real estate market? Do you think having access to more information will raise or lower prices or have no effect?
I think that the danger where it comes in, and I could tell you that almost without fail, 100% of the people that come to see me, I'll ask the question, how much do you think your house is worth? And they're going to come back to me and they're going to say, well, my neighbor sold for X amount of dollars, right? Or his house was listed for X amount of dollars. But my house is so much better because we believe that our homes, and rightfully so, we believe that our homes are worth more than the neighbor, more than the guy across the street. And because of that, I believe that with a tool like this, what could potentially happen is, if you decide that you're going to list your house, you're going to go on there, you're going to look and you're going to say, okay, how much did these houses sell for around me? Well, my house is better, so I'm going to ask for more money. And it might not necessarily be realistic. I think that, a good real estate broker going in, doing a proper comparative market analysis is what's going to really be the determining factor of what prices should be listed for. But I could see a lot of arguments being started between clients and brokers at this point.
Now, so would you be an advocate for opening it up even further? Like this tool, it does have some limitations. I think it only goes back a couple of years, right? So would you be in favor of, a system where, because I know you mentioned it's on public registers, right? It's there, it's out there.
Already.
But you the average person cannot do all this work on their own, right? But having an app where everything's there, it's a lot different. Would you be an advocate to even more data? Is there a limit to what type of data everyone should have access to?
I think the only data that people should not have access to, or at least it should be paid data, is financial data. As far as everything else goes, I think it should be open because it also keeps, and you have to remember, it keeps the municipalities honest, right? So you got to look at, the municipal tax assessments, all that stuff is based on what properties have sold a couple of years ago, right? So when you look at that, you can, you get your tax assessment, and let's say it's, the municipality is completely out to lunch and they're charging you something ridiculous. You can go into this tool and you can look and see what the price point was on similar types of properties that sold in your area for the type of house that you have. So I do think that data should be accessible. I think that data should go longer than a couple of years. It's very intensive and it's very heavy, but I think maybe 5 years. Why not? Let's go back and see what's going on, just to make sure that everyone knows exactly what their investment is worth. I mean, you're able, if you have mutual funds, you're able to go in and look at historic data on your mutual funds. You're able to go in and look at, what the price of the mutual fund is, how much your portfolio is worth, all that stuff. It's the same thing with this tool, right? It gives you a glimpse into your investment. And your home is, most of the time, the biggest investment that you're going to have. So why not have access to it? Why not know exactly what it's worth?
We're with Terry Kilakos, host of the Real Estate Show right here on CJAD 800. We're talking about a new tool for the public. Journal de Montréal just launching a tool, an interactive tool that lets you look up real estate prices in your neighborhood. So, Terry, one of the interesting things that I've noticed, because, boy, I've been having fun with this tool, just going around the city and seeing the stuff that's the most surprising, eye-opening to me is, finally getting to see properties in the last 2 years, for whatever reason, it gets sold 3 times, right? And you see, height of the market, and then you see, geez, somebody took a loss here, right? And then it gets resold again at a higher price and that kind of thing. Anything that you think will be an eye opener to the average person looking at this data?
I think that people are not going to be able to lie anymore. The amount of times that I've heard someone come, it just happened yesterday. I had a customer, they came in and they said to me, my neighbor's house sold for $1 million. And I said, I don't believe that. No, that's what they said that they sold it for.
Yeah.
So now this guy is under this impression that his house is worth $1 million. And I said, well, let's pull it up. Let's take a look. So I go into my system and I'm able to pull it up, and I look, and it was like 780 or 790, something like that. Big difference between $1 million and, talk about rounding up, right? So
yeah.
Everyone, wants, let's say they have an interest rate that's at 4.5, they're going to say it's at 4, it's just people always round numbers to their favor. So it's going to allow people to have a better gauge of what is going on in their surroundings. So I think it's great. I think that's going to be the biggest eye-opener for people when they're actually going to see the true values of what the property sold, not what they're listed for, because what someone lists the property at, like you said at the beginning, it's not what it's going to sell for. In some cases, it'll sell under. In some cases, it'll sell more. But this will actually give you the right data that you need to see when you need to see it.
And it's so interesting, Terry, right? Because there's such a difference between asking price and what it sells for. And I know, when you're going through that process, you got a real estate agent, you can get that data. But for it to be freely available here on a newspaper website like this is pretty interesting.
I think it's going to be great, to be honest with you.
Terry, it's great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You can hear Terry Kilakos as the host of the Real Estate Show on CJAD 800. And, of course, he's a real estate broker with Northeast Real Estate and Mortgage Agency.